I didn't have a career, but I felt like I didn't know who I was. And I think I felt so lost. Like who am I? And I think it's because like I based so much of my identity in like my friends or like boys or like people, like in general. And when all of that was like gone, I felt so confused as to like what is my life and who am I exactly?
Hello. Welcome back. I feel like we are like, these are like different sounds. Your bra strap? That was like kind of aggressive. Yeah, you guys, this is kind of TMI. Like, I haven't worn a bra in a really long time, but there's a reason.
What's the reason?
So you guys might be like, what the heck? Like, didn't that already happen? Well, guess what? I took out my wisdom tooth.
Surprise, surprise.
Number like 500, I swear to God.
Yeah.
Yup. So you guys, like, this is our first time recording in like 3 weeks, which is so crazy. And honestly, if I gave you guys an update of the past 3 weeks right now, like, it could probably take the hour. So I'm a Easter egg it in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But for this check-in, I wanted to tell you guys about my wisdom tooth removal.
Are you effing serious? This is what you chose?
Yeah. This is like Hannah was like, all right, like, what do you want to talk about? Like, this is the one thing I want to talk about is my wisdom tooth removal, because you guys, so if you remember my last one, I don't know how in depth I went in. I think I did mention that I ended up taking out 2 teeth.
Yes.
Because it impacted the nerve of the upper molar.
Okay.
So I did not want that to happen to my left wisdom tooth, right? So I took it out, but my wisdom teeth they're just like, what's going on? They didn't get the message. They didn't get the message that they're supposed to grow vertically. And so they grew out horizontally. And so, anyways, it was a lot harder. Like, my dentist and his assistant, they were switching like back and forth, trying to yank this thing out. And like, you know, when you get teeth removed, I don't necessarily know if it's like painful. It's like the pressure that's like makes you nervous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it feels like they're using their entire body weight to just like push.
It's a bone.
Yeah,
you know, it's a bone. And like, I guess I started getting freaked out because like he was having such a hard time pulling it out. I was scared like that force, if it were to just pop out, like the force
would like rip your mouth?
would like the tool would like hurt my bottom teeth.
Oh
you
my
know?
God, oh my God.
So I was
like
getting like so scared. Yeah, like it like would pop out. You know when you pop things out, like you can't like control that.
Yeah.
So anyways, that happened, and you know, by the time this episode comes out, it's probably been a bit over a week since I pulled it out, but I'm having kind of a hard time. Like, I had like fevers over the weekend, like 100.6, literally shivering, chills. But I've been eating real good, you guys, like real good. My mom, like, there's a Korean dish called 설렁탕, which it's basically like bone broth, right?
It's like oxtail soup.
Yup, it's really good for you.
That
so I had
collagen.
that. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And then I had pho before that, and I was craving it, and that also had a lot of collagen because I only get my pho with tendon. With tendon.
Is she a tendon
Yeah.
girl?
And then my mom was like, okay, like I wanted to make this for her anyways. She made something called samgyetang, right? Which you put in like prunes and roots, like ginseng roots, like ginseng's cousins, not ginseng, but like ginseng's cousins. And my mom, like, you guys, for like the 3 of us, like my mom, my dad, me, and my boyfriend, so like 4 of us, used 2 big, like whole chickens.
Oh my gosh.
And 2 mini chickens. And so I ate that.
Chicken a person?
It's a chicken a person. It's yeah. It's a chicken a person. But I swear, I think I had that for about 5 meals. And this is so gross. But, you know, your wisdom tooth is very close to your sinus. And so I think just the pressure and all that, like I got a couple nosebleeds and, you know, just it's definitely impacting my sinus.
Dang, yeah.
And I swear my freaking mucus tastes like samgyetang. Tastes like chicken, you guys. It's been tasting like chicken for about 5 days.
Chicken mucus soup. Chicken mucus soup with some ginseng cousin.
yeah, absolutely not. Well, so I don't know if I should be happy or not. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather have it taste like chicken, but that's also kind of gross. Like, every time I'm like blowing my nose, I'm like, yeah. So if I do sound a bit nasally in this episode, it's because I'm still recovering, and I went to the dentist today, and basically, long story short, he was just like, suck it up.
Oh my.
Like, there's nothing, like, there's no infection. So that's the good news. There's no infection. Like, the reason I'm in so much pain is because I don't know. Because I can't handle it. I don't know.
Oh my God.
But yes. Yeah, but a lot more exciting check-in for you guys next week.
Okay.
But yeah, that was my big
good stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, this week, like, all I really did was I was just like stuck in. I forgot to talk about my birthday presents and my birthday, but I'm gonna talk about that next week too.
Okay. Okay. Well, happy belated birthday to you, Julie. I was like listening to our own podcast as I do, and I was like, oh shit, we forgot to shout out our own girl. And so happy belated birthday. 9797.
Yes, the best birthday ever.
Yeah, September 7th. She's obviously a Virgo, if you guys couldn't tell. But yeah, no, seriously, like, happy birthday, because literally words can't even describe to you like how much I value our friendship. Like, honestly, it's been like so special.
Like, should we hold hands? Okay, let's hold hands.
It's gonna be sweaty, guys. Her hand is my hand is sweaty.
Yeah, but usually my hand is sweaty.
Whoa, what's going on?
Mine's cold.
We've become like
one in the same. Yeah.
But no, I'm like so thankful for you, and I'm glad that like we're able to like have this little baby of ours. We're
I feel like Hannah's uncomfortable, you guys. She's not even grabbing my hand. It's more like a here, like you do the grabbing. She's literally just like, yeah, she was definitely not grabbing. I was like this. I'm grabbing.
Like,
she was just like a little princess, like, kiss my hand. Yeah.
No, but seriously, like, it's been such a amazing journey, and just to see like how much you've grown in the last year, it's crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah, so here's to you getting old.
That's not what she meant to say. Here is to me and my
aging.
Kobe year. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be
more wrinkles. Your body's gonna start breaking down. If you have a little bit of caffeine too late, you're gonna not be able to sleep.
Well, oh my dude, like, because of this wisdom tooth, I haven't had coffee in a week.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I haven't had coffee in a week. That was all. That was it.
Oh, thank you so much.
I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, I was just in so much pain. I didn't even realize like the withdrawal pains. You know?
Yeah, but I've like truly missed you. It's been a while, and really dude, I think my like check-in this week is how I've always been there for Julie during her church announcements, because Julie goes up to the stage to like do the announcements at the end, and I decided to give her and like one of our other church members a little bit of a break, and so like I have started to do announcements, but like literally I have no supporters except for our friend D-Jung. Like literally it's just D-Jung solely in the audience, like giving me support, and then I'll get like texts during the announcements from Julie like, good job, like I'm here in support in theory.
Yes, but I will hold myself accountable and be there for her this coming Sunday.
No, thank you so much. Yeah. And we want to shout out one of our cogis, Angelina.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so excited to meet you.
Yes. So she actually, like, I think it was like maybe the first week that I was going up to do the announcements.
Yeah.
Mind you, I walk into like the worship room and I'm shaking. Like I am so freaking nervous because like you wouldn't think that it would be intimidating, but
but she's a rock star,
with
man.
The lights, camera, action is intimidating. And so as I'm like literally talking to myself, she like taps me on the shoulder and she's like, hi, like, and introduces herself. And I swear I was obviously present, but I was also a little bit browned out. Let's say browned out because I was so nervous.
Yes. I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
get
yeah.
browned out.
And so it's been really nice to connect with our listeners. And so I will say we have a very special episode this week, but also next week that involves one of our gogis. And so we're gonna be having a few things coming your way. This episode is actually going to be available on YouTube as
Woohoo!
a lot of you guys want it. A lot of you guys want to see our faces. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
You're visual.
exactly,
We get it. You're visual.
Exactly. And you know, I think you would especially want to see my face because, guys, I freaking went to Hilly.
Woo!
And I did not have a panic attack.
Woo woo! 2 woos for that.
Yes. And so my skin is glowing. It's looking real smooth.
It is. Like if you look at the YouTube, like you'll probably like look at me looking at Hannah. It was truly glowing.
Yes. And so skin improvements on the way. I've been in the gym. I've been putting in lots of work. So yeah, I've been feeling a lot better. I think I'm like even more out of my funk.
That's good.
And I like to thank my sister for that because we tend to take turns. So
No,
I'm not really playing. But like truly the morning I was like, you know what? I'm feeling better. She texted me. She's like, dude, I'm having a full-on breakdown. And so me and Kara switch off. You and I also switch off. So it's definitely a phenomenon. Yes. But yeah, we are so excited to introduce our next guest. So let's get into the episode.
So we have a guest today.
Yes.
Right? As mentioned. And she is so special because if you guys have heard some of our previous episodes, I didn't leave campus once my freshman year of college. But this might have easily been my sophomore year as well. But even then I was like sick the entire year. So I was just on my bed watching YouTube videos. And so somebody used to watch literally weekly, monthly, just her vlogs, get ready with me, like just cafe visits, journal, like all that. A person I used to watch, you guys, on. So to me, in my YouTube dictionary, she is famous.
No, she is.
Has joined us. Currently, she works for like probably, I don't know, if you grew up in LA, probably all our dream jobs at one point. You know what I mean? Working at Disney.
Oh yeah,
Disney.
Disney,
the Disney, not like Disney or you know what I mean? Like Disney, Walt Disney, as a product designer.
Yes,
and I don't know, CEO,
founder,
president of Spill the Beans. But if you want to look it up, it's spillthebean.org. And unfortunately, you know, UCLA alum, you guys might know it as UCLA, I don't know. So she almost didn't like join us for the podcast because
you know a little bit of rivalry, fight on.
But we want to welcome and introduce, drum roll, Grace H. Park.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on this podcast. I just gotta say, I mean, for listeners, I'm sure there's a reason like you guys have so many listeners. It's because you guys are really good. You guys are so good at this stuff, like so good at talking, so like comfortable to talk with, like amazing. It's an honor to be here.
Oh yes. No, we've been like we have a list of people that we want on the podcast, and you have been on it for a really long time. Just because like, dude, I don't know about you guys. I feel like everyone goes through a phase where like you're kind of confused on what you want to do with your life, like in your career. And so that's what we are having you on for. And so thank you for joining us.
And the timing couldn't have been better because you know, sometimes when you experience life and everything just kind of comes full circle. Yeah. So I, for the past couple of months have been living on LinkedIn and saw that someone I'm like, in my community connected to had retweeted or not tweeted, but, like reshared or shared, relinked. I don't know. LinkedIn shared, I think your post and it all just kind of connected because we went to Disneyland and they shared your post about the magical keys.
Yes.
And so I was like, why does that like small picture, right? Because it's like tiny because they shared it. Why does her face look so familiar? Like I know her. Like Grace. I mean, there's so many Graces, but I was like, I know this Grace. Why do I know this Grace? And it just all kind of happened. Like we went to Disneyland. I saw that. And then I texted you. I was like, the passes are gone, but there's the keys. There are the keys. And then you worked on the keys. And it was like, and then we contacted you and then you're on the podcast. And it was just like a full circle of,
yes.
you know, to me, it's a full circle.
And then now we're here after all this time. And so that's great. That is actually crazy. But also like this whole like Korean community, Asian community is so small. I feel like everyone has, even though you don't like know someone, you've always like heard of other people, you know, like I've heard of BULGOGI podcast also like before. So he's doing great, man.
Oh,
yes. So I know we mentioned that we almost did not have you on the podcast. However, because you went to UCLA, but what did you study at UCLA?
Yeah. So I actually transferred to UCLA. So I was first at community college. I don't think a lot of people know this, but I was at community college for the first 2 years of my whole college experience. And that was freaking hell. It was so hard. I had no friends. I was all alone, but you know, we made it. And then eventually I transferred to UCLA. Also had no friends because I knew absolutely no one at UCLA. And then I actually studied psychology. So I went into this major because my brother was also a psychology major. And it's funny because everything that my brother has done in the past, like Isaac, his name's Isaac, by the way. He also transferred to UCLA. So I transferred to UCLA and he also studied psychology. So I studied psychology and he also does product design. And so I did product design. Yes. So my brother always says like your life is just like a copy and paste of my life.
That's so funny.
Man. So yeah, I studied psychology at UCLA. Don't ask me when, a while back, but yeah.
I see. Okay. So like with you studying psychology and then now in product design, like did you always like think that you were going to go into product design, or like what was like that experience of like, you know, feeling like, oh, you know, I want to study this in college, and then you always hear from people, I didn't go into what I studied in college. And so what was your experience like in terms of like what you thought was going to be your job and like what actually ended up being your job?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I had no idea like what I wanted to do. Absolutely nothing. Also, like the major of psychology is so broad, right? Like you can do so many things with it. And so when I graduated, I actually had this thing, which I think is very common, called Post-Grad Depression. And right? Like I'm sure some people have experienced that. And it's really tough because like one moment you're like surrounded with your friends and like, you know what you're supposed to be doing, like studying and then getting good grades. And then all of a sudden you're thrown into this world where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a schedule anymore. Like my friends are all dispersed everywhere. And so at that time I really was so lost. And I was like unemployed for I think a good like almost a year, honestly. Because I was so fun employed, you know. And then I eventually just got a job in marketing because I just applied to like all these places. I got a job in marketing. So I was like, if you told me when I was younger, like, hey, you're going to be a product designer, I would have been like, okay, yeah, sure. Like there's no shot because I never envisioned myself doing anything in design for some reason. It just was never part of my like end goal or even in my thoughts. So the fact that I'm here, it is a little weird looking at it in retrospect. Yeah.
And when you did end up like going into marketing for that first, you know, big girl job, Was that kind of the area you were looking into, or for you was it like, okay, I've been unemployed for like a year, I need to find something?
So let me actually backtrack a little bit because I think this will help. Basically, at UCLA, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but back then I thought I wanted to do, I knew there's like, because you know, like you have interests in various things, or for me,
Yeah.
I did, right? And so I was like, oh, I want to look into like something in entertainment. So actually, I did do some internships, like, and I interned actually for ISA TV, which is part of Wong Fu Production.
Oh yeah.
Which, yeah. And so I interned with them. And that's when I realized, like, okay, I don't think like entertainment is the way I really want to go into. Like, because for that, it was a lot of like production and video editing and all that kind of stuff. That's when I kind of like X'd that part out. And then for my first job, I literally applied everywhere. I did like anywhere that would accept me. So that job was like a digital marketing content creator. It was like a really long title, but at that job is where I was like, I think I learned, it was one of the hardest times of my life because that company was a very small startup. So I had to wear so many hats, like email marketing, graphic design, content creation, influencer marketing, like you name it. It was everything. And during that time, it was so hard. But I think because I learned so many of those things, I knew what I didn't like. And that's kind of what narrowed it down to, okay, maybe product design might be something like I could do and see myself doing. Yeah.
Oh, wow. No, I like completely relate to that. Like, I think in college, I always like thought that I was gonna go into entertainment, and it's like, it's funny like why this had started. Like, I remember back in high school, I was watching the MTV VMAs, and at that time, I mean, I'm still a believer, but like at that time I was like a hardcore believer, and she's like on stage, and I remember there were girls from like one of the high schools in my area who had gone to the award show, and they yelled out like during his speech or whatever, like, Justin, we love you, and he like yelled back like, I love you too. And so ever since that experience, I was like, I may not be able to have that, but I want to be able to have that for my kids. And so that's initially why I had like gone into entertainment. But then, to be honest, I like, you know, had a couple internships, and I realized like it wasn't everything that I thought it was going to be. Like I started to see like, you know, like the behind the scenes, like the dirty work and all of that goes into, you know, having like a successful career in entertainment. And so I completely like relate to you in that, like, yeah, I tried out a bunch of things in college, and then like eventually you kind of get to a point where you're like kind of narrowing it down, but I'm still working on the narrowing it down further.
Oh, for sure. But it's like good that you experienced that, you know, and like tried it out. And even if it's like a little bit that you're narrowing, I think that's still guiding you the right direction, right? So I feel you.
Yes.
I don't know if I ever share this on the pod, but my academic advisor would make so much fun of me because every time I came to visit him, I wanted to be something different. I like, right, like, you know, there was definitely a pre-med route at one point, and then there was like a lawyer route, but it's just so funny. I don't know. I think if you grow up in LA, you unknowingly, indirectly get that, you know, like LA, Hollywood, entertainment influence a lot. Because if I went the, you know, lawyer route, I wanted to do entertainment law. Right. And then, so when I tell people my major was human development and family sciences, like they're like, oh, so like sociology, like psychology. And there were a lot of people who doubled in psychology to become counselors, therapists. And for me, it's funny because for me, that was like absolutely not the reason. It was actually to work for entertainment companies whose products are for children and family. So like Disney and Nickelodeon, because I mean, they must do like R&D for, you know, they must like, if they're making like Inside Out, they must have research on it to create that product. So that's actually why I went into it, also for entertainment.
Yes.
So that was the final.
No, I totally get you though, because I think it's like you're so right with this whole like LA thing, because I'm pretty sure like everyone has at least once thought about like, I want to do something in entertainment, whether it's like, you know, whatever
Be
you're
the
talking
celebrity.
about, or like, or like an actor or something, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it is like where we live as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, unknowingly, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think like one of the things that I've been hearing a lot in like, you know, trying to figure out what I want to do is actually like play off your strengths. And one of the things I've personally been struggling with is like almost like figuring out what my strengths are. And so I'm curious as to if you have advice for people who may not know like, you know, what they like, what they dislike, and, you know, are kind of early in their careers in that stage.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best way to figure out what your strengths are kind of, it's really to ask like the people that are closest to you to tell you like, hey, what are the things that you think I'm good at? Because a lot of the times I don't think personally people don't really like sit around and they're like, okay, these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses, right? Unless you're like prepping for an interview and you're like, okay, I need to write this down. But really the best ways I think is like asking like your family or people that you really trust to be like, hey, like, what do you think I'm really good at? Right. And really taking that advice and not just saying like, no, like I'm not, but like actually taking and be like, oh, like maybe this is something that I am really good at. Right. And then from there, like exploring either how you can get better at that strength, or if there's a weakness that you want to work on, like what you can do to improve that. So if you don't know your strengths right now, like ask the people around you. And I'm sure that will help you like get an idea of like what it is, you know?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. No, I thought something very similar, just like, you know, we talked about this, and in terms of like love languages, words of affirmation is not a strong suit of mine. Like, I don't know, just when people compliment me, I think when I was younger, I always felt the need to like I need to reciprocate it, you know, when all that's necessary is like a thank you, like, that's so kind of you, you know what I mean? But yeah, especially like my parents and my close friends, like this is not really occupation related, but there was a point when I really didn't like my voice because it was like so raspy and you know, it was just like,
I love your voice.
Like, thank you.
It's like Scarlett Johansson.
Thank you. But like, because I would pick up the phone and my aunts would be like, oh my God, this is Julie. Like I thought it was a little boy, you know? And that's why, but that's just kind of, maybe it's a chola girl thing. I don't know. But my aunts just were kind of like that.
Yeah.
But through like, you know, I just like strangers, like in Uber rides or like teachers or random people would compliment it. And so I started to like it, and I started to, you know, take advantage of it, you know, like, you know, volunteer to speak in front of the class, like present. But no, definitely I think asking your surroundings has helped me identify like what I'm really good at.
Oh, wow. I like that. I really like that. And also I really like the point where like you can't like always be like, no, like that's not it. Like, because I think maybe that's where like my confusion lies. Cause like I'm constantly trying to deny, you know, like compliments. Cause I'm like, I feel awkward. Like, I don't know how to act. Like, I don't know how to respond. And so I like that. That totally makes sense. Cause I feel like I've been like, even if I do ask, I will probably shut it down. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, I will say if I'm good at something, I'll say like, oh, 나 이거 잘해요. Like if an adult asks me, right? But I have definitely been in a situation when I was in Korea and my dad's like colleague's daughter, right, plays the piano, and my dad was like, oh, I heard you're really good. And she was like, no, I'm really not good. And then she's just like, and I was just like, bruh, you said you weren't good. Like, what do you mean?
No, for sure. And I think there's like, by saying and like having that acceptance of like, let's say someone's like, hey, like you guys are really good at public speaking, and actually saying like, thank you, like, I actually am good at public speaking. Like having that acceptance actually really helps with your confidence, and that's something that you're going to need like moving forward. And whenever when you work in like a whatever industry you're in, like I really learned at Disney and just like in general, not just at Disney, that that like really like nobody is looking out for yourself except yourself, right? Like even like wherever you work, like you have to be able to stand up for yourself and you have to be able to know like what you're actually worth and your value, because no one's gonna sit around and do that for you because everyone's thinking about themselves. So when you do receive those compliments and those strengths, like just take it in and say like, yeah, I actually am good at that. And then be proud of it because that's you. So
Ooh, preach. Yes, I love that.
It's so true.
Yeah, and I think Julie, you were actually definitely your own biggest cheerleader, and you always say that. So wow.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, because I just think like, I don't know, like if I was always doubting myself, and I don't know how I can truly wholeheartedly like compliment others and lift them up as well. Yeah. Like I just feel like it helps me like understand like, oh, I'm not so good at this, but you're really good at that. And to share, to be able to share like, oh, I'm really good at this. Maybe I could share like a word of wisdom. Like, hey, like I've tried doing this and this and this to help me with whatever, like self-care. Like I block out days on my calendar and that gives me a lot of like me time and I get to do blah, blah. Like I just feel like if I didn't have that cheerleader within me, I don't know how I could cheer like other people on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah. No, I totally feel that. So yes, hopefully I will build that more. But I will say, like, out of all the confusion that is my life, I think one of the things that like I know that I love is like just connecting with people. And so I think that's like honestly how our podcast kind of started. Like it just made a lot of sense. Like I finally felt like all of like my experiences were like kind of like converging, and so it's been like a really, really good way to just like have self-expression, creativity, and mostly connect with people. And so I'm wondering, like, when you started your YouTube channel, like back in 2015, were you like playing off certain strengths of yours, or how did you like start your channel?
Yeah, so I started my YouTube channel actually in high school, like senior year. Yeah,
what?
Like
she was before the trend.
Ooh, she was early.
Like right when YouTube came out, and it was like nobody knew about it. Yeah, I started it, but I was really my high school life is like a whole nother story. But I was very like, I felt like in high school, I mean, I think everybody goes through like insecurities and things like that, but especially in high school, like I never felt like myself. I always felt like I had to be some way that people thought I was. And so I created this YouTube channel. I didn't upload like vlogs and stuff. I just literally recorded like senior memories and stuff because I wanted to journal my life. And that's how my YouTube channel started. Like I just wanted a memory vlog of, hey, this is what I did when I went to UCLA, and this is what I did in high school. And I think at UCLA is really where I started, like editing and actually posting more vlogs, because those were such like precious times in my life that I wanted to cherish and I wanted to, hold close. And because of YouTube, I think it helped me. Well, first, it helped me a lot get a lot of the opportunities that kind of led me to where I am now. Like, for instance, like I truly believe like I got ISA TV because of my YouTube, because like they wanted to, I don't know, maybe that helped. And then I also worked a little for like CJ Entertainment. I did like KCON hosting for them, which, who would have thought? Yeah. So I don't think I had like strength necessarily then, because but I think because of my project, like because of my vlogs and stuff, I think I got a lot better and a lot more comfortable with speaking in front of a camera or speaking in front of people or just public speaking in general, right? And so kind of going back to like what the point before, like I think your project, maybe now you don't know your strengths, but I think you're developing it. Like you saying like you connect with people, I don't think that's a skill that people can learn at school. I think that's like a gift. Yeah, right? Like those skills, like soft skills of being able to talk with strangers and making people feel comfortable and like wanting to share, those are things that you can't teach someone. It's just like it's innate in a person, I believe. Of course, people can always like improve, but I think that's such a gift, and you should really keep doing that. And like through your podcast, that's what I'm saying, through this podcast, like I think you're developing those. And like when you get a job and when people actually work, you'll be so surprised at how many people don't actually have those soft skills. And those soft skills make the biggest difference in who's a great worker and who's just like a good worker, right? Or yeah. And so
whoa,
so true.
Yeah.
Wow, I love. I'm gonna cry. Yeah. BRB. Oh. I'm tearing up. Wait, that is so nice. Like I really appreciate you saying that. Like I feel like it's been a little rough, and so I really appreciate like the positive encouragement. And yes, hopefully I will continue to develop these skills through our podcast for sure. But
And I feel like I always talk about work in our podcast. I don't know. I'm a workaholic. I don't even know. But I also can second that, because I like wholeheartedly believe like technical skills, right? Those you can just learn. Like that's why we have Google too. Like if you don't know Excel, like you can just Google that. Like you can just Google it. But really, so I found this like scorecard at my previous company, and it was basically like about me, right? And I don't know, they probably forgot to remove it. I don't even know. And I will say they were looking for somebody with like 5 years of experience, and I've only been working for like a year and 3 months at this point. But at the end I got the job, but when I saw the scorecard, the technical skills weren't very high, but I think I really got the job because like the social aspect, right? It was like zest. It was like enthusiasm, curiosity. Like those were, I don't know, ranked very high.
whoa.
So I wasn't too offended, but like you said, like it's kind of a habit, right? I try to think about it as a relationship. When you find something like that you don't really like in your partner, it's like you can't really expect them to like change for you in a day, because it's been a habit of theirs for 20, I don't know, something years, right? So same thing, those soft skills, you can develop it. Like you can, I trust you can develop it, but it's kind of hard to develop it in a week or two, because it's just kind of a part of you and how you were as a person since childhood.
Right.
Yeah.
So, great job.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much. I really, wow, there's so much positive encouragement. I'm really uncomfortable. Not used to it.
Just say thank you. Just say thank you.
Thank you.
But since we are talking about YouTube, have you ever considered doing YouTube full time?
I did very briefly, for like a week. I was like, I'm going to do
Very
this.
briefly.
Very brief. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to get supplies and lights and all these things. And then that died so fast. I did think about it, but I think I realized like, I started it as a hobby, and then it started feeling very burdensome and very like, it wasn't really like me. I felt like I was just trying to put things out there, like, okay, how can I get more views, or like, how can I get whatever? And I think that's the I feel like people who work in the entertainment field, or people who are YouTubers or influencers, like they have such a sense of like guardedness. And I totally understand why, because I think they feel so much pressure by what others think of them, right? Like that's basically their identity. It's like, if I don't have this many views compared to my previous video, does that mean I'm no longer relevant? Or does that mean like they don't like me as much? Or, and I think that's such a hard life to live. Like if you're constantly living for like thousands and millions of people, it's like I feel so like my heart goes for them, because it's like, that's tough, just living a normal life is tough, but like being in the spotlight for that many people, it's really hard. And I think, not that I'm saying I was like some famous YouTuber or something. Like none of that at all. But just like I think I felt like I was losing myself along the way. So I kind of like decided like, okay, wait, like this isn't what I want to do. And yeah, I think I still make videos very infrequently, but more for just like the memories, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think when I kind of started to realize there were people that we didn't know were listening to the podcast is when I also felt that. Like, oh my gosh, like now I have to kind of be careful about what I say because they don't really know me and my personality, so they might take it offensively.
Yeah.
Or if I just say, oh, remember, like, you know, when that happened? No, like they don't know. And so it was like, I think what you were saying, I kind of felt a glimpse of that when I first started to realize like, oh, there are people like messaging us or commenting that are in Australia or, you know, like Canada, like places I've never been. So no, definitely.
No, yeah. And I can completely also understand like the numbers thing and not even comparing yourself to other creators, but just comparing yourself to like your last video or last episode, like whatever it is. Like I think like I had to like train myself to develop like hey, I'm only gonna check analytics like at certain times, and it can't be like a constant refresh situation because it's like the same thing with social media. Like you start to kind of like base your worth in it, even if it's subconscious, which is like so sad to be like living off of like arbitrary numbers basically. Yeah,
I totally feel it. That's why I sometimes, it's so funny. I always delete my Instagram app on my phone, and then like I'm off it for like 2 days, and then I always re-download it, and then I delete it again. It's like this constant cycle of me just deleting and re-uploading. But yeah.
I don't know. I will say I do and did find a lot of, you know, silver linings because of, you know, quarantine. And I think a lot of people realized like it might be a little toxic for them, right? Yeah. Nobody was traveling. Nobody had like cute bikini photos. Like nobody was going anywhere. So it was like the purpose of Instagram was like going down, right? And then I think my boyfriend was just kind of laughing at me because when I took out the other wisdom tooth, we just happened to have a lot of events that following week. We went to like a comedy show, and like I posted with beers that they were like promoting. But I couldn't drink alcohol. So he was like, wow, this is so fake. This is so fake. And then it was my dad's birthday. But I was like, I need to hold something. So I literally grabbed my dad's glass of wine and but I wasn't even drinking it. So he was just like, oh my gosh, social media is so fake.
Yeah, no, it really is.
It actually is. It is.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But okay, so talking about how, because you're still YouTubing. So I guess kind of backstory, I used to figure skate, right? And I feel like I knew, and not like super competitively, but it was kind of, it's an intense sport. Like if you're doing it, like it's a lot of investment. Like, I don't know, like you have to have a choreography coach, a spin coach, a jump coach. I don't know, and like get them like it's just so much, right? So then when I'm also kind of a logical person, so I was like, okay, the amount that my mom and dad are paying for me to experience figure skating, and for my sister, is this something I want to maybe like pursue as a career or just keep as a hobby? I think for me, I think a lot of the people like that in this generation, it's like tyranny of choice. Like we've been exposed to so many things. How do we know like if I want to just remain the sport, the interest as a hobby versus make it my career?
Kim Yuna.
Yeah, like, it's Yana. How many times am I gonna tell you? It's Kim Yuna. It's Kim Yuna. It's like you're basically saying like bulgogi. You're basically saying bulgogi.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to Kim Yuna.
But you know, like just in the same vein, like how did you know, like of all the things you were interested in, that you wanted to keep that as a hobby versus pursuing it as your career?
I mean, I think it's like, for me, like this is just speaking on behalf of myself. Like, I think I knew like, oh, if I want to do this full time, right? If I want to be a YouTuber full time, there is so much risk. And and I guess it's up to the person because each individual person is different. Like some people are like, I'm willing to take that risk. Like, I don't care if it takes me like years until I'm going to make this. And like, you know, like all credit to them, like that's great. But I think for myself, like I kind of knew like, okay, the percentage of me becoming like a really big and like enough to like sustain my life is honestly like very small, right? Like it's like, I think a lot of the people who do make it big, it's one, like they worked really hard for it, but also I think it's great timing and like great content that they've planned. And for me, I just felt like I wasn't ready to commit my whole entire life to that. And I wasn't confident in myself enough to do that. So that's why I think I decided like, hey, I want to keep it as a hobby because that's what I intended that YouTube channel to be. Like I never started it thinking my goal is to get like famous. Like that was never in my mind. And so I think that's why I went the route of keeping it as a hobby. But I think it really varies from person to person because there are some people that are like, I don't care if I'm going to work at coffee shops or like be like a waitress or a waiter until you're doing all these like side gigs until I'm like 40. And like, I like, honestly, like to me, I'm like, wow, like that is dedication. And that's amazing that you have that grit to be able to do that. But my personality, personally, it's like, I knew like my personality doesn't go that way. So I think that's why I decided, yeah, like, let's just keep this as a hobby. And if it does blow up, like, that's great. Like, I would love that. But if it doesn't, like, that's fine too. So I think that's why, yeah, I did both.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it is about like knowing yourself. And like, I think like whether you are like a little bit more practical or like, you know, you're willing to take all the risks and like, you know, sacrifice a lot of things for that, like it really like depends on like person to person. And I remember asking somebody at my church because she like does art on the side, like she's an occupational therapist, like as her full-time gig, and then she'll like she gets lots of commissions and whatnot. And so I always asked her like, how did you like decide to like have both rather than like just, you know, choosing one? And she was explaining to me how like, you know, like though she loves art, if it became her like only source of income, like it's like too much pressure where you know anything can become a job. And so I think like her being able to like still have it as an outlet and yet like not have to depend on it completely monetarily, I think like I was like, oh wow, like I would have never, like it doesn't need to be black or white, like it can be gray, it can be in the middle, you can have both. And so yeah, no, I can like completely like see like you have to know yourself and like be true to yourself, because I think in the end like everything like happens for a reason, for sure. Yeah
On a different track of trains.
Who says on a different track of trains? What in the Thomas?
I feel like we should make that up.
Okay, well, on a different track of trains.
I think I'm red. I think you can tell that I am red on the camera.
Oh my gosh, you're crazy. That is a crazy transition, but okay. So in terms of like, you know, your post-grad experience, I know that you had mentioned that you were fun employed for like a year or so, and I know that like during that time, like I'm sure you were doing a lot of like reflecting and just like trying to figure out your life, because I think like a lot of times the phrase I use is like, I'm gonna get my shit together now, like everyone, it's happening now. But I think I'm curious as to like what kind of mindset you had during this time that like helped you stay resilient, because it's easy to like, you know, get it all up in your head, to kind of spiral some days. But yeah, what was your mindset like during this time?
My mindset was definitely not resilient, to be honest with you. Like, I wish I could say like, yeah, I was resilient. Like I tried to do X, Y, and Z. And to be honest, I didn't. Like, I had this yellow sweater that I used to wear like every single day. And my mom was like, you are so disgusting and nasty. You need a shower. And I was just, I wish I could tell you like, hey, like but I really, looking back, like I think I was so lost. And I didn't do anything, guys, like, to be honest. Like I would look maybe for like 30 minutes on Indeed.com and be like, oh yeah, I applied to some jobs. And then just go about my day. But the reality of it was so hard and it was so tough. And during that time, like, I think another thing I really struggled with was not only just like the fact that I didn't have a career, but I felt like I didn't know who I was. And I think I felt so lost. Like, who am I? Like, and I think it's because like I based so much of my identity in like my friends or like boys or like people, like in general. And when all of that was like gone, I felt so confused as to like what is my life and who am I exactly? And so, yeah, I think I wish I could say I was resilient, but definitely not. And I think one thing that helped me like get out of it was I used to say like really nasty things to myself, like things you would never say to your friends, right? Like, oh, you're so stupid, or like you're ugly, or you're not good at anything. Like, I'm sure a lot of girls and guys too, like have always sometime in their life said that to themselves. And it got to a point where I was so sick and tired of saying that to myself, like every single day, where one day I remember I was like in the bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was just like, dude, like, shut up, man. Like, stop saying that about yourself. Like, why do you keep saying that, And I think that's when I kind of like learned, like, you can't, like no one is saying that about you. It's only yourself that is being like hurting yourself, And so through that time, like in retrospect, I'm really glad I went through it, because I think I got to really, I wouldn't be able to be who I am right now and have learned all that if I didn't go through that really difficult, hard time, And so, so yeah, to answer your question, I definitely wasn't resilient.
Wow. I really appreciate you like opening up about all of this, because I think it's like it's easy to, when you're unemployed, to tell people like, oh, I'm applying to so many jobs, like, and all of that. Like, I think there's almost like a sense of shame, I think, that like I have definitely experienced, where like, like I will get texts from my parents just being like, what do you do all day? Like, what's going on? Like, are you figuring out your career? Because you keep telling us like, I'm figuring it out, and I'm like, I'm trying. But I think like I really admire your like vulnerability in that sense, of just like, like sometimes your mindset isn't going to be resilient. Like sometimes it's not going to be like everything's gonna work out, like everything will go like truly, like I think there can definitely be points in your life where like it feels like it's just never gonna end. And so I really appreciate that, and I definitely like understand like where you're coming from. Like, if anything, Julie would know. If anyone knows, Julie would know. I was questioning myself, my values, all my interests during quarantine. Like, it was truly like a break of just everything that I like knew. Like everything was just shattering. And so like truly I think through time and like lots of like self-reflection and like self-love and just being like, hey, like you're good at things, like you're beautiful, like I definitely do my morning affirmations.
And go mirror Grace, the mirror Grace that told you to shut up.
Honestly, I think you just need to tell, like, sometimes it helps. It's really like a mind perspective shift, and I know that sounds so much it's like so much easier to say than to do, but really, like, I think a lot of life comes from perspective, like how you're gonna view the day, right? Like, are you gonna like look at the things you have and think of the things you don't have, or are you gonna be thankful for the things you have? And so just shifting your perspective, especially about yourself, will really make a big difference. And only you can do that, I think.
And going back to when you mentioned there was a point when you felt lost because you put so much of your identity in boys and in friends, and I think for me it was just always so heavily in my parents. And while that in itself was extremely difficult, because it was always like trying to please my parents, being the firstborn, like, you know, immigrant parents too. So like they did everything for me, sacrificed everything for me. Like I owe it to them. Right. So it was extremely, that sense of doing it for them was extremely strong. That was difficult, but I also do have to say, for me, it just kind of aligned well, because I mean, I do feel fortunate, right? Like I also didn't know what I wanted to do. Like senior year, like a lot of my friends were in business. So for them, it was like, get the full-time offer from the place they interned junior year, Big Four, big city, New York. You know what I mean? It was all lined up. So for me, I thought it was extremely normal to know where you were working first semester of senior year. So here I am like, I don't even know. With a human development degree, like that, I don't want to be a therapist. I don't want to be a counselor. Like, what am I going to do? It just worked out because I think my mom and I had a conversation, and going back to what we spoke about earlier, she was like, you need to be in something where you're engaging with different people because you love to talk. Like you guys, I was about to go into accounting. Like I really considered accounting. You know what I mean? Imagine me in a like I know.
What?
And so,
Why?
I don't know. It was just like, it was so weird. It was like a trend for me. Everyone was in business, so I was like, I want to be in the business school. Like I want to be in that. And so, oh my God, I don't even know what was going through my mind, but it just like worked out, right? And that's always just kind of how I think about like the doctor, lawyer, engineers too. Like good for them that what our parents want for all of us, that they're good at it and they want it. Like good for them. Good for them, you know? So.
Yeah. But that's not necessarily where everyone's strengths lie.
Exactly.
And so for you, I think, you know, I have been stalking Spill the Beans. Like I actually stalking, reading through every single industry. And so I guess, like, can you share a little bit more about that with us, please?
Yeah, so Spill the Beans. I'm so glad you like it. Like I'm glad there's like some people that are reading it, because Spill the Beans Spill the Beans like started when I got laid off during COVID. So I was looking for jobs and I had no idea. Like again, I felt lost. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And then I constantly had that idea of like, hey, it would be really cool if there was like a platform where people could like read like interviews or short question answers about different professions. So in my head, I was like, oh, that would have been helpful when I was in college. And I remember I sat at my friend's house and I was like telling her my idea, and she was like, you should do it. And so I actually, like that day, I stayed up till 4 a.m. like on this bed. I stayed up till 4 a.m. like designing something on Figma, and then 2 days later or 3 days later I launched it. Like I put it on the website, and something about me, guys, like I am very compulsive. Like if I want to do something, I don't really think through like, here are the logistics of it and here's what's going to happen, here are my goals. Like I never do that. I just like like Hejin, like she works for Spill the Beans with me, but she knows this. I'm very compulsive. So if I'm like, guys, we need a newsletter, then I'll just like make a newsletter. It's never there's not a lot of thought. And so I stayed up, I built it on this bed, and then I launched it, and it was just me and my brother's stories. And in my head I was like, okay, I'm going to reach out to my friends because and see if they would be willing to share. Never in my brain did I think like random people would want to share their story with us. But I had like a form that on our website, I just like put a form there like, hey, if you're interested, like fill this out. And actually like the first person that submitted a form was this wonderful, like, she's so great. Her name is Sandy, and she actually works at Google. And she was like the first person to fill out the form. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what the heck? And she like filled it out in a couple of like hours, I think. And so from there, that's kind of how it started. And it kind of became this, I'm not going to say big, like we're still so small, but it became this project that we still work on today. And it's like we just hit like 1 year, which is absolutely crazy.
Wow.
So yeah. So
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah.
No, and I wish more. I don't really know what your demographic is. I don't know, like, but I wish, like, yeah, like if I saw something like that while I was in college, not only like would I know, wow, like this is a job I've never heard of.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes like, I mean, I was telling Hannah, like, I don't know, when you grow up in an Asian household, there are so many times when you could just think like, okay, lawyer, doctor, engineer. I don't know. Those are the only jobs out there. I don't know. Like if I, you know, like I don't know if my grandparents would know what a UI UX designer would be, or you know what I mean. There's so, like strategic partnerships. Like there are so many roles now, like at all these creative, you know, agencies and companies, like Fortune, like 100s, 50s. Like if I had known, then I wouldn't beat myself up. Like, oh my God, I have to choose accounting, tax, doctor, like all these, you know, like just more traditional, I don't know, quote unquote traditional roles. But I think it'd be so helpful for people to like realize, oh wow, like I've never heard of this job.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like one thing was like, because when I was in college, the only option was I either reach out to people on LinkedIn and a lot of times get like ghosted, like nobody responds, or I can like Google like, hey, what does someone in human resources do? But like it's not like actually hearing from someone who's actually working in human resources, and also hearing like what inspired you to get into that specific field that you are in, you know. And so yeah, I think I'm that's why I Spill the Beans came to life.
No, it's been personally very helpful. So yeah, thank you for creating it. Happy 1 year. That's so crazy. Yes. I know. And yeah, I think just like to conclude, you know, obviously I'm confused, and I think I've been more accepting of that. Like I will say I was going through a bit of a funk, and then there was literally one day where I woke up and I was like, why am I being so judgmental of like being at this low place? And so I think like accepting like, hey, I may be at this low place, but like that's it. Like it's going to pass, just like the high times and the low times, like everything passes. And so I think like to an extent, it's really about like almost like fake it till you make it. Like I always say the number one skill I learned from like studying business in college was like sometimes you kind of just gotta BS your way through it, and you will like find something that clicks.
Oh my gosh, wait, I have a question really quick.
Yes.
Have you like you're saying fake it till you make it just reminded me of something. Have you guys ever had a conversation with someone and you're like, and they're like, oh, do you know like this thing, like just like a random thing, or like did you ever watch this movie? And like you could say no, but you say yes.
Dude, at my new job, like they reference like so many like dude, do you know how many random people I looked up today? Like, today. Yeah. I was like, who is that? What is that? Yeah. Like I could easily just like, oh, what's that? Like, you know, just ask. But I'm like, yeah. Literally Googling their name. I'm just like,
Dude, I know. Like, I'm like, and then like you say yes, like, oh yeah, I do know that. And then like they start talking about it, and then it's like too deep into the conversation where you can't be like,
you gotta commit to it. Yeah,
but like in your head, you're like, frick, like I don't know what the heck this person's talking about.
Oh gosh, no, I totally do that like all the time, because I love to know information, and so I freak out when I don't. Yeah, and so I think like one of the best examples is like if we're talking about music and like it's a single artist, and then I'm like, oh yeah, they are really good. Like, you know, you use the wrong like number pronoun, and so I'm like, no. Yeah.
So to be honest, I do it a lot to Hannah. And I think at first she used to not notice, but I think you started to notice. You know, like, do you know them? Like, or do you
do you actually know what I'm referencing?
Yeah. I used to just hand up like, what is she talking about?
That's literally me all the time. Like, I hate when I do that. And then in retrospect, I'm like, oh my God, Grace, you're so stupid.
No, you can't. No calling yourself stupid.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Take it back to the beer.
Exactly. Sorry, going back. You're fake it till you make it, like triggered triggered my brain. Okay.
Yes, no, but truly, I think, that's the number one thing I learned in business school. So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And would you like to share what you would like to leave the gogis with?
Yes. I don't know. I guess for me, right? Me too. Just I the more you get to know me, Grace, like I'm just like go all the time. Literally 200 miles per hour. Like even so I started a new job, right? This is like it hasn't even been a month.
Yeah.
And when my parents asked me, because they knew like I was going through the job hunt as well, as were a lot of people this past year, right? And they were like, so how many jobs did you apply to? And I literally looked at, I created a separate folder for it, right? Like applied and like, you know, ones I got responses from, like, and it was close to 300, right? I was just like, go, like go, like literally applying to jobs that I wasn't even interested in. I was like, why did I apply for that? You know? And so anyways, just long story short, like, yes, I don't think I ever envisioned myself being like a laid back, like, go with the flow. But I do think everything happens for a reason. And I think Hannah shared this with me, but like, you know, by the time we're all 30, everything is all somewhat evened out. Yeah. And I think that I like to remind myself of that when I tend to burn myself out. Right. I'm like, no, I need to move up. Like, but you know what? No. Like, you know what? Just take a step back, breathe. Yeah. Like by the time we're 30, like, yeah, some people might be making more money. Some people might have more assets. Like, I don't even care, like whatever, but it's all going to just be averaged out anyways. And so if there is something I learned the past, like, just since graduating, I would say it's that.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think it's like everyone's built so differently, right? Like I think I really applaud like the fact that you're such a go-getter, because sometimes you need a good balance, right? Like you don't want to be way too lazy, but you also don't want to be always like go to the point where you're kind of like missing out on life and like appreciating the things that you have and stuff.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think it's like, even for me, when I work, sometimes I have like a behavior, like it's really bad. My family knows this. Like I will work and not like eat lunch because I like forget that it's like lunchtime and just continually work. And I think I got so burnt out to the point where like my body was hurting and I was like unhappy. And that's when I had to realize like, okay, this is not healthy. And you need to set like personal boundaries. Like it's good to go after the things you want, but at the same time, like don't lose your health and don't lose like your relationships over it, because it'll still be there tomorrow. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was beautifully and well said. Honestly, one of our most eloquent guests for sure. Yeah, no, truly.
No, I feel like I just blah, blah, blah. I don't even know what I said.
Dude, blah, blah, blah is like the definition of our entire podcast.
Yeah. There was this one episode and I was like, what in the world was I saying? And I literally just go, you know, when you're like blah, blah, blahing. Like I say blah, blah, blah a lot on this podcast. So you fit right in.
Oh, goodness.
Perfect. Love it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And for our gogis, if you guys want to check out Grace, you can find her on linkedin.com/in/GracePark889. And please go ahead and check out spillthebean.org if you are confused, interested, if you want to see her beautiful design that she finished at 4 a.m.
Yes. Or even I would say if you want to change, you know,
career paths.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think it would be a great like first spot to visit. You know?
Gosh, yeah, 100%. And then they also have a TikTok, which is tiktok.com/spillthebeansorg, and that is it.
That is it.
Yeah.
Woo!
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, and we like to do this thing.
Yes.
Would you like to explain?
Yes. I don't even know how it started, right? I don't even know how it started. It's kind of our signature outro where you choose a pitch, like a random pitch, like in a ooh. Okay, the sound is a ooh, and you just go with the ooh, and you just choose a random pitch, and we all harmonize or not,
damn.
or not, or not. Like literally, there are
gosh.
days. It's just a mystery game. It's a mystery game
Yes.
of oohs.
Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty, so you're gonna ooh and just choose a pitch and ooh for like 5 seconds with
why
us.
am I so nervous? Wait, why did I suddenly get so nervous right now? I'm like, oh my gosh.
Okay, take a deep breath. We're gonna ooh on a count of 3. Ready?
Wait.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Okay. You got one
Okay.
chance, Grace.
Yeah.
One
Don't mess it up.
chance.
Mm-mm.
Oh god, no
Okay.
pressure.
Okay,
Ready?
ready? One. Oh, I took a breath and I was like, oh yeah. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Ooh. Why did your ooh disappear? Her ooh definitely disappeared.
Definitely.
It went, ooh.
Wait, no.
I was like, did she disconnect?
It faded out.
That's slow.
It
Yeah.
wasn't a crescendo. It was the other way.
It went down. It went down.